What is Mr. Lieutenant General Faiz Hameed charged for? Is it you doing something which is anti-state, or is it something related to corruption? What do you make of it?
Well, if you read the press release issued by ISPR, it's shocking.
Which aspect of it you found shocking?
Violation of the oath of secrecy.
Are you saying that he used his position and influence for personal and political gains when he was in uniform or after he shed it?
Both. He sent messages to other political leaders, including People's Party and PML-N, to appoint him army chief after General Bajwa. He is the one who pushed and gave plans to Mr. Khan to invade Islamabad on May 25, 2022.
So what was his role basically? Was he encouraging Khan Saab, persuading him, or facilitating him?
All. Verdict
today regarding trial of civilians in military court. And how is it likely to impact the future of Imran Khan?
It's a bad news
for Imran
Khan. We have a new administration in Syria. What has happened, why it has happened, and how it would impact the regional politics and the big powers.
I think it will transform Middle Eastern geopolitical landscape significantly in the times to come. It has, as you rightly pointed out, immediately deprived Iran of its major regional ally. It has deprived Russia of its most important ally and regional military bases. And it has completely tilted the balance of power in the region in favor of Israel.
Correct.
A similar circumstances which we witnessed when Afghan Taliban took over Kabul, in which a non-state actor has taken over through brute force, but that does not mean that it will immediately yield political stability or international diplomatic recognition.
With a fresh episode of The Weekend, I am Murtaza Solangi.
And I am Muhammad Ali.
Well, this last week has been quite historic, both globally, regionally, and nationally. And here we are. Last Sunday, when I woke up, the first news that I heard was that Damascus has fallen and Bashar al-Assad has fled. And nobody knew where he was headed. A few hours after that, the news flash was that he was headed somewhere on the aircraft, but the destination was not known. And then there was speculative news that his plane is not being tracked, is missing. And it was the Reuters even rumored that maybe his plane has crashed. Now, as we speak, almost a week or a little short of the week, we have a new administration in Syria, and Israel has stepped up. They have captured Mount Hermon. A lot of developments are taking place. People especially in Pakistan and my region, would like to know what has happened, why it has happened, and how it would impact the regional politics and the big powers. So,
thank you, Murtaza Sahab. I think Syria is perhaps one of the most turbulent countries in Middle Eastern history for thousands of years. And it is unfortunate that it has remained unstable for a very long time for different reasons. But this particular episode, which definitely shocked the world, can be traced back to at least last 10 years, in which Syria witnessed insurgencies, civil war, leading to the death of almost 500,000 people. And only 2 weeks ago, Syrian territory was being bombed by at least 4 different air forces: Israeli Air Force, the US Air Force, the Russian Air Force, and the Turkish Air Force, who all were individually pursuing their own national interests and targets. But this does tell us that the sovereignty and territorial integrity was perhaps practically gone. And Bashar al-Assad's regime was not able to protect its territory and uphold its sovereignty in any way. And a week before that, you would recall, Bashar made a very hurried, short trip to see Mr. Putin in Moscow, after which Mr. Putin sacked his commander, who was in charge of advising Bashar's armed forces. And within 24 hours, the Russian Air Force was bombing forces which were advancing against the Bashar military forces. But this was perhaps too little too late, because the lightning advances of the opposition forces led by the Hayat Tahrirul Sham, popularly known as HST, was shocking to perhaps the entire world. So what is the situation right now? Let's look at it in 3 dimensions: the security dimension, the political dimension, and the diplomatic dimension. In terms of the security dimension, as you rightly pointed out, perhaps no neighbor has exploited this weakness and the power vacuum in Syria more timely than Israel, which has immediately sent its armored forces into the southern Syrian territory on the pretext of securing its strategic space. And President Benjamin Netanyahu also issued a statement in which he said that the 50-year-old agreement between Syria and Israel regarding armistice is no longer there, which indicates that they no longer recognize Syrian sovereignty over the southern part of their territory. Secondly, while the fighting has subsided in near Damascus and southern part, that does not mean that HST enjoys complete sovereignty over the entire territory. There are still pockets of resistance in which Hezbollah, in which some other Iran-sponsored groups, and in the north, the Kurds continue to maintain their strength and influence, which remains uncontested by HST. So at best, the current environment can be described as the monopoly of violence by HST, led by Mr. Abu Muhammad al-Golani, whose real name is Ahmad al-Sharar. Yet it is not uncontested. Now, the real question is that whether they will be able to translate this military victory into political legitimacy and diplomatic recognition. That is the real question. And my short answer is that they are trying to make tactful, positive, soft overtures, both nationally and internationally. And they are saying that although They trace their origin to Al-Qaeda in 2003, 2004. But this time around, they want to present themselves nationally as a freedom fighter for the Syrian rights of the oppressed who were exploited by the Bashar regime. And internationally, G7 has said that they appreciate transition based on an inclusive and non-sectarian, formation of government. However, there is a qualification that the constitution will remain suspended for 3 months, during which a committee of judiciary and human rights will be established to examine the constitution, which means that there is no guarantee that this will be a transition towards democracy, and number of these people remain on the international terrorist watch list. So I think it looks vaguely like a similar circumstances which we witnessed when Afghan Taliban took over Kabul, in which a non-state actor has taken over through brute force, but that does not mean that it will immediately yield political stability or international diplomatic recognition.
Interesting. The situation of Syria is quite complex. Number one, the involvement of regional and global powers in the end game. It makes it quite different from Afghanistan. In Syria, both Russia and United States had some kind of involvement through their regional allies, and Russia was a direct party with their foots, with their soldiers on the ground, boots on the ground, and naval base by northwest Syria, Latakia.
Yes.
Then you had a heavy involvement of Iran,
Indeed.
Who was supporting Bashar al-Assad almost to the end. Then you had a heavy involvement of Turkey for their own interests, and especially keeping a vigilant eye on Kurds. That's their problem, and they have been hosting millions of Syrian refugees. But there is an element of complexity even of the forces who have occupied now Syria. They are not a monolith. You have elements of Al-Qaeda, you have elements of ISIS,
Yes.
you have different other groups, plus even Mr. Golani or Jolani, however we pronounce his name, he has been associated with these extremist groups like Al-Qaeda, etc. And then he dissociated himself, but the links would still be there. He has actually remained in jail in Iraq, if you remember.
In fact, only today, Secretary of State Blinken met President Erdogan, and they both highlighted the need to continue fighting the emergence of Daesh in Syria.
So the challenges before the new occupiers of Syria is
not liberators.
Yes, is the entire country is on the crossroads. If they want, they can create a very diverse, united national government that would incorporate all ethnic and religious communities and go towards a new path of constitution making, create a republic. That's one path. The other choices are just too dangerous. That means, a start of new wave of violence where these communities and the militias would fight. You have cases like Libya. Iraq has gone through this phase, and Afghanistan has faced these militia and warlord factional fights for almost half a century. So it's a very, very alarming situation. But the very fact that it happened in that dramatic fashion, the civil war against Bashar al-Assad started right after 2011. It has, more than a decade. But this instant, success within 10, 12, 2 weeks, I think it has something to do with other changes in the Middle East. The way Israel somehow decimated Gaza and then took care of Lebanon, that hurt Iran the most and their supporters. So on one hand, Russia was supporting Bashar al-Assad, on the other, Iran. And then with the decimation of Hezbollah, even the Lebanese supporters of Syria were gone. So it created that a historic vacuum that was quickly filled by these militias easily, who were trying since 2011 and couldn't make it. But now, those critical changes taking place has happened, what you rightly described.
But let me just add 3 points to it briefly before we move to other topics. I think it will transform Middle Eastern geopolitical landscape significantly in the times to come. It has, as you rightly pointed out, immediately deprived Iran of its major regional ally. It has deprived Russia of its most important ally and regional military bases. And it has completely tilted the balance of power in the region in favor of Israel.
Correct.
So with these views, let's talk about another country which is equally in the eye of the storm and is considered another epicenter of global terrorism, which is Afghanistan. It is again in the news, and this time one of the most feared warlord, Khalilur Rahman Haqqani, one of the founders of the infamous Haqqani network, has been assassinated. And he fought the might of the Western powers for 2 decades. And here he is killed in a mosque inside his own ministry. What do you make of this, and what is its significance?
Well, the official position is that ISKP, Islamic State of Khorasan province, the local version of Daesh, have taken the responsibility. But before that news items, some sections of Taliban who have more association with the center of Kandahar, not Kabul, they even accused Pakistan. And Pakistan was smart enough and responsible enough to condemn that assassination. Our foreign minister, who is also the deputy prime minister, he issued the condemnation statement. And but when I tried to track Afghan media, especially people who are overseas, the diaspora, some interesting facts came to my attention. Mainly the conflict between Haqqanis and the Kandhari group, including Mullah Haibatullah. The tensions are there. Even as I was checking news, some of the sources suggested that except Haqqani group, the other factions, mainly the Kandhari group, they did not even attend the funeral.
Really?
Which is very shocking, if true. I also came to notice that last week there was a verbal duel between Khalil Haqqani and Siraj Haqqani and the education minister who is affiliated with the Mullah Haibatullah group. They had some kind of altercation.
And Khalil Haqqani is the uncle of Siraj Haqqani, who's the interior minister.
Who's the interior minister. So, so far we can say that the conflict is still there between the Kandhari and Kabul group, but it has not gained that power that it would somehow create massive fissures and paralyze the government. But those conflicts are there, and they were exploited probably by Daesh. When you are internally weak, your security system gets weakened. The ease with which that suicide attacker came inside the mosque and attacked Khalil Haqqani when he was getting into his vehicle outside the mosque. Otherwise, had he detonated himself inside the mosque, the casualty number would have just gone up. So it is very troubling. Pakistan's position is that we have been telling you that you have to keep your house in order. You have to follow Doha Card, where you promised that we will not allow terror groups to operate from our soil. But you are selective. You are allowing TTP and other groups. And look what happened.
So I think what you said makes one wonder about three aspects. First, the internal fissures within the Haqqani network. You mentioned about some exchange of hot words between uncle and nephew, both.
Uncle and nephew were on one side.
Yes.
The education minister, who is affiliated with the Kandhari group.
The Kandhari group is.
Yeah.
So there is a sort of a tension between the competing power centers within the Afghan Taliban regime, the Kandhari group and the Haqqani group. And secondly, you mentioned that ISKP exploited it. But I think the excess, the security failure, and the amount of penetration that ISKP could achieve and assassinate one of the pioneers of Haqqani network is quite exceptional, considering that he survived the might of the Western powers for 2 decades.
From Soviet era.
From Soviet era. And he's one of the sort of the spearheads of the Afghan-led, insurgency against the Western countries and ISAF forces. But the third aspect worries me more, which is that as the UN report recently warned, that this is the perfect evidence and manifestation of the concern that the UN report expressed, that Daesh and Al-Qaeda has penetrated deep within the ranks and important ministries, including Defense Ministry and Intelligence Department of Taliban, which poses a serious threat to Afghan security and stability. And the attempt to put the blame on neighbors seems unwise and requires an approach in which there has to be a soul searching within the Kabul administration to look for the causes which are, which have led to this unfortunate incident. But we hope that these things are understood and addressed adequately and peacefully. But let's come to the third topic of our discussion, which is your forte.
Let's return to Pakistan.
Yes, let's return to Pakistan. And as some people say, there is never a dull moment in Islamabad. So we heard that the former DG intelligence of Pakistan, the chief spy master, Lieutenant General Faiz Hameed, was formally charge-sheeted
last
Sunday. And the text of the military media wing press release was also very interesting.
Last Tuesday, I'm sorry.
So I want you to explain that to our viewers, that what does that mean? What is Mr. Lieutenant General Faiz Hameed charged for? Is it you doing something which is anti-state, or is it something related to corruption? What do you make of it?
Well, if you read the press release issued by ISPR, it's shocking. And it reveals so many.
Which aspect of it you found shocking?
The very fact that it doesn't only mention the wrongdoings during his tenure. Mainly, it tells you about the violation of the oath of secrecy that he had taken upon himself to, violate it, Official Secret Act, and his association with Mr. Khan and his party. After even he was relieved of his position as DGISI, when he was Corps Commander Peshawar, and when he was Corps Commander Bahawalpur.
I want you to make it simple for our audience. Are you saying that he used his position and influence for personal and political gains when he was in uniform, or after he shed it?
Both. Say, for example, there seems to be quite irrefutable evidence suggesting that he persuaded, or rather coerced, former Prime Minister to delay his departure from Islamabad as DGISI, and also he sent messages to other political leaders, including People's Party and PML-N, to appoint him army chief after General Bajwa. So if that evidence comes to light, that's one aspect.
This is when General Bajwa removed him from the post of DGISI?
at that time, and even after that, when the time came for the appointment of new army chief in November 2022, before that, he even sent messages to Nawaz Sharif, to Shehbaz Sharif, to Asif Zardari, while he was trying to be blue-eyed boy of Mr. Khan. So he tried at multiple levels to ensure that he comes as the next army chief. So he was so possessed and obsessed with that ambition. Then there are quite a few incidents that Grapevine would say that when he was Corps Commander Peshawar, he is the one who pushed and gave plans to Mr. Khan to invade Islamabad on May 25, 2022. Then his second long march that he was on his way when he was attacked in Wazirabad, even that. And after that, his last march, that was around November 26, 2022, just a couple of days before the appointment of army chief. Even that.
So what was his role basically? Was he encouraging Khan Saab, persuading him, or facilitating him?
All. But, his attempts around November 2022 were, on one hand, using all his cards to get him appointed army chief. And the second plank of his efforts was to somehow ensure that anybody but General Asim Munir. And he and Mr. Khan were on one page. Mr. Khan even went on television and on camera, even telling Mr. Kamran Khan and others that why not? Why not appoint army chief after election and give another extension to General Bajwa, if you remember.
Yes.
But it did not end there. His efforts continued. Even the May 9 incident is being said that it was his plans. The target selection around the country of the sensitive installations.
But I want your brief comment before we conclude on this very important subject, that how is PTI responding to this development? Are they trying to distance themselves from this very serious development, which also includes vindication of the military courts for trying the civilians? Or are they trying to divert the pressure of this statement towards army by blaming and linking Mr. Faiz with General Bajwa?
Well, when the news came out on August 12, for the first time, when Mr. Faiz Hameed was arrested and it was officially announced, Mr. Khan's reaction was, okay, I worked with him when I was Prime Minister in official capacity. It's their problem. They deal with it. Then he had a little bit realization that if this goes to Mr. Faiz Hameed, that he has just abandoned me and says, okay, nothing doing, that might backfire and he might reveal more their association and what they have been planning in tandem. Then he had another statement saying, oh, he was a great asset, but vested. Now, as this went, progressed further, yesterday he said, well, whatever he did it on the orders of General Bajwa. Because whatever I talk to him, he would go and report to General Bajwa. This defies logic and facts because as DGISI, he was supposed to report to the Prime Minister of Pakistan. He was supposed to report to General Bajwa only as a 3-star general, not as DGISI. And we have known how this position is powerful and important. But even that ended in October, end of October, when he was removed as DGISI. And in November, General Bajwa retired. So,
and in December,
how does this explain his actions after
General
Bajwa's retirement? If he was doing everything on the directions of General Bajwa,
then how
come all these actions, including November attack in Pindi, when he announced the dissolution of Punjab Assembly and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Assembly, and then Wazirabad Long March and May 9. So you couldn't explain these.
So my last question on this very important subject is, what do you make of this Supreme Judicial Council's Supreme Court's verdict today regarding trial of civilians in military court, and how is it likely to impact the future of Imran Khan?
It's a bad news
for Imran
Khan, because it seems that Supreme Court has opened the door that there may be special circumstances where some special group of people committing special set of crimes that fall under the purview of Army Act, they are heinous enough to be tried under military court. That opens the door for the military court trial of Mr. Khan and some of his close associates, including people like Murad Saeed. That is a possibility.
How long are the winter vacations in the Supreme Court?
I think they come back next month, might be a couple of weeks, but the court would resume next month. Interestingly, people who would be convicted and announced the sentences, since Supreme Court has allowed now to go ahead, people that you have tried, the number is 85 to be exact. Those who have to serve a sentence term, they would immediately go to jail and serve whatever the remainder of the sentence is, and they would be deprived of the right to appeal in High Court till Supreme Court gives the final verdict about this case. So that is important.
I think we are looking forward to very interesting, intense and warm winters.
We certainly are, and I think Mr. Khan judged that how things were moving. That's why the man who called all these parliament as a joke and these politicians as puppets agreed to form a committee to talk to them. So that coming down from that high hill was very was a good symptom of addressing what he is going through.
So what do you make of the civil disobedience movement?
We have seen a civil disobedience movement by Mr. Khan in 2014. It failed despite the fact that the then establishment was supporting him. Now, with everybody on the same page except Mr. Khan, the chances of success are zero or maybe even below zero.
Mr. Mirza Solanki, thank you so much for joining us today to discuss some of the most interesting and significant global, regional, and national developments today. Viewers, I am sure you enjoyed today's show. Keep watching this program and don't forget to share your feedback as well. Thank you for joining us.